What's up, everybody? It's another Golden Nuggets podcast about here with Xander. We talk about formulation today.
Beautiful, love that, dude. Oh, that's a skill. I wonder how long it takes to get good at that. What is it, like an auctioneer type of voice?
Yeah, auctioneer or like a boxing
to
announcer or something like that.
Yeah, well, boxing, you're enunciating way more, but you're obviously putting some sauce on the pronunciation to make it fun for people. But anyway,
all right.
So yeah, basically, yeah, you describe it. Go ahead.
Wait, describe what? Oh, did you have something in mind?
Describe what we're gonna do. No. Describe what we're gonna do.
Oh, we're doing the pod, dude.
No. I just mean like what we intend to do with the formulation review.
I thought we were doing the pod. You know.
Oh my god. This man pranked me, you guys. This man pranked me.
Wait, no. Hang on. We've broken the fourth wall. We've explained how we make these now. Oh man.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well,
I was totally confused about it. All right.
Well, now we're in.
Yeah, let's just.
No. Now we're in the nether zone. We're between two different types of content, so we really have no idea what's going to happen.
Dude.
It's like Schrodinger's box or whatever.
We're in the DMZ now.
Exactly.
We're in the DMZ of learning. Fantastic.
We're waiting for the wave function to collapse and pick one of the multiverses to sort of branch off into right now.
Yep, I'll pretend to understand that reference.
All right. Well, okay. Look, let's go for a Golden Nuggets podcast. I've got some topics laid out for me for us right now.
All right. All right.
Been thinking a lot about machine learning generated flashcards. Give me your immediate associations with what? With
they're not good.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Well, I've been thinking recently that they might actually have some utility, my friend. And here's the argument that I'm going to lay out for you. Okay. Generating machine learning flashcards is very low cost because the machine literally does it for you, right? So what I'm imagining is you open your Supermemory article, you pick a paragraph that you want cards to be generated from. The machine learning algorithm generates them for you. So you literally don't put in any cognitive effort. And then you have the choice, you have the optionality. You have the choice whether to keep or discard the items that it creates. So it's not like you're downloading a shared deck and then all of these cards are given to you, and perhaps you're also studying for an exam, so you can't decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to discard. It's not like that. You actually have the choice which of those cards that it generates you want to keep. So you can only keep those ones that meet your threshold of quality or value or whatever. And so that's what I'm thinking with the machine learning generated flashcards. It seems like there would be very little downside because of the low cost of generating them and the ability to choose only those high value ones.
Yeah, so I definitely see that side of it. And just to clarify my position, not all machine learning generated flashcards are bad. It's just that most of them are. And the primary reason that most of them are bad is because, to me, the most interesting items that one could make are not representing information that is explicitly stated in the text,
right,
or in the source material. And so if it isn't in the source material, the machines just are not at a point where first of all, it doesn't have all of the information in your brain. So even if it could make associations between linguistically different but conceptually related concepts, it still would not be good because it doesn't have all the information you have in your brain.
Right.
So that's one component. And another component is that it can't do that anyway. So even if it did, it doesn't matter. And that lack of really more high-level items that are not just directly pulling from the source, that completely removes most of the utility of it for me. Now, of course, what you're stating there is like, oh, for the simpler stuff, we can just save time by doing this. And yeah, that's definitely true. A couple of my concerns about it are, one, that it makes you kind of lazy in terms of the formulation. And it's sort of like an atrophy of a muscle, like you're sitting still for too long, or you're not exercising enough, or whatever it is. And obviously it's the extreme case, but if you don't try, it's just you lose that muscle. Use it or you lose it. You know what I mean? So I think it's partially that, and I also think, I don't know. It messes up your evaluation of things, and also there's benefit to writing items yourself, even if they're sort of tedious. Like it's not clear to me that if you use a bunch of machine learning generated items for the easy stuff, that you would remember them just as well as if you had written them yourself. So those are my concerns with it primarily. And I think we are very far away from any sort of serious utility of this stuff at all. And trust me, I've seen as many as of this type of thing with as many different approaches as people have to offer. As far as I'm aware, I've seen all of the current instantiations of it, even the ones that are very unpopular, meaning not very known yet. So anyway, as far as I've seen, we're not even close.
That's interesting. Yeah, like you, when you were talking about what kinds of items you find really valuable, you talked about those ones that aren't, that make connections that aren't obviously present in the source text. They sort of make a connection with something that's already stored in your prior knowledge, right? And so, yeah, there's this interesting article by Woz when he's talking about formulation for programming items, and he's talking about the different ways that you can decompose the value of an item into. So, for example, firstly, you have like the reference time. How long does it take you to look up something on the internet? And then by learning that item, you sort of gain that amount of time. So that's one way you can sort of increase the value by studying flashcards, is just by decreasing the amount of time you need to spend looking up things, right? And then I think what you're talking about, there's a much more difficult measure of item value, which is like the association bonus from learning items. And that might be the one where it's like, where you actually gain the most value potentially, because obviously if you make a good association, it could result in a business or new scientific breakthrough or something like that. And it's also the one that's most difficult to quantify, as we've talked about before with the whole is it going to be a copper nugget or a golden nugget thing. So I thought that was interesting. But one of the things that I did realize recently is that it is possible, for example, to train these machine learning models on your prior knowledge to a certain extent, because you could provide the machine learning model with the database of all of the prompts that you'd made before. And I don't know enough about machine learning to say whether that would be a good approach or whether that would work, especially in the current situation. I don't know whether the technology is there, whether it's at the level where it would be able to actually create valuable connections between sort of new information and your prior knowledge. But yeah, I guess there's potential there. I think I agree with you that they aren't probably going to be generating the most valuable items possible, and you will always need to rely on your own item making ability. But I still think it's interesting, and yeah, it's definitely something I want to experiment with in the future. I'm actually working on a little something to test it out, which I'll be releasing very, very soon. So look out for that.
Ooh, that's exciting. Yeah, I mean, do you honestly think there's any utility in training it on your prior knowledge? I have not seen anything very good from that.
Well, there's this project called Joule that is being worked on by a guy called Paul Brickman mainly. He's working on it. I think it's like a collective project, but he's been doing basically all of the work so far, and he's created this program called Joule, which I think it's an Obsidian plugin right now, and it's basically GPT-2, which is one of the natural language processing models. You might have heard of GPT-3, which is like the latest instantiation of it, but that one requires a huge amount of processing power in order to run.
A ton. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So GPT-2 is like its little brother, but it's still pretty good. It does a really good job at generating text basically. And what he's done is you basically have GPT-2, which is very good at generating text, and then he trains the model also on all of your Obsidian notes, so all of your writing, what you've been writing about, and then it creates this sort of chatbot thing, which he calls your Joule, and then you can type messages to your Joule, like natural language queries, like tell me something about I don't know, DNA or something like that, and then the chatbot basically, because it's sort of trained on all of your prior knowledge and all of your writing, it will give you a response. It will generate you some text that it will contain references to all of the things that you've been writing about. So it does sort of have an understanding of your prior knowledge in that sense. And unfortunately, I haven't had enough time to try it out yet, but it does look pretty cool. I was really surprised that something like that is actually possible, but it does seem to be becoming more and more feasible gradually.
Yeah, it's the thing is, I think with the current instantiations, it's really cool, and I've said as much to Paul, and I really honestly believe that it's really cool. But it's just that as of right now, the results I've seen are not better than, suppose you're using like a Zettelkasten system where your links are or your notes are linked, right? If you say, okay, I want to learn about DNA to give that same example, then you just go to the DNA tag or you search your notes for DNA, and then you just sort of traverse a few links and read a little bit. And I think you'll end up in a better spot than whatever the output of the machine is. So to me, the question isn't, can the machine generate anything useful? It's, is the content generated from the machine significantly better, or at least as good in a way that could save you time than what you could find by just quickly look at, like right now, I know that if I had interlinked notes about DNA, it would take me 30 or 45 seconds to find my notes about that and activate the associations and rethink the same things that would bring me more value than something that GPT-2 could provide me.
Yeah.
That's just, as of right now, that's just a fact. And that's not to nullify the work. It's just to say it's fun, but not useful. Not yet.
Yeah, what I really want to see is someone do something like that sort of really depends on this ability, if you know what I mean. So is someone using this to actually generate really interesting ideas? Can they show that they use this thing to do that? I think that's, it's a fair point. One of the things that I don't necessarily like, but you can also sort of see it as a benefit, is that what GPT-2 is really good at is generating plausible text. It's not doing human level reasoning and giving you a response that's based on like really deeply thinking about the query that you sent it. So if you ask about DNA, it isn't thinking, if you know, in the same sense that a human would. It's generating things that would be plausible in a DNA context, if you know what I mean, and then stringing all of that together into English text. And so I can see the benefit, because what Paul has told me about this is that it isn't necessarily supposed to be giving you strictly correct, accurate responses. It's mainly to be as like a sort of creativity booster. It's not necessarily going to give you those crisp, scientific, academic responses, but it's going to give you something that might trigger something in your brain, might cause you to create a connection between something that you didn't expect, or something like that. So,
but the connection, excuse me, the connection seems like it could have been made, like I say, by just manually reading. Well, I understand that it's cool to ask a computer, but are we doing this because it's cool, or are we doing it because it's useful?
Right. Yeah, it's always got to compete with the human, and also all of these just more primitive search technologies, as you mentioned before as well.
Right, and as of right now, if you're talking particularly in the context of a Zettelkasten note system, almost all of the value of this sort of semantic searching that this, or semantic summarization, or whatever it is, that this GPT-2 would allow, is nullified, because you can already find that with the Zettelkasten. That's one of the primary benefits, a conversation with the notes. That's how Lumen described it. And so while I think it's very, very, very cool, and I support this work, and I hope it continues, it's just not at a point where it's very good. Where I think it might be useful is if you're using it on text that you didn't write. And so it doesn't have a bunch of links. Like I tried to do it with the incremental reading guide. I tried to give GPT-3, because I have access to that, the whole incremental reading guide. Now, of course, there's limits, so I had to do sections. But I tried to give it that and then ask it questions about incremental reading based on the guide that weren't explicitly answered in there, but they were implicitly. And I actually got some pretty good results. And so the utility of that is that the incremental reading guide is not densely linked. You didn't write it. Odds are you don't remember very much of it word for word unless you attempted to do that. So there's value in that kind of thing, and I imagine if you could import a whole book or something and then ask questions of the book, that would be useful as well.
What if I could ask questions of your Joule? What if I could? What if you could sell access to your sort of API endpoint for your Zettelkasten system, and I could, ask you some questions or interview you via your AI friend?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems likely to be mostly nonsense.
All right.
One, because the technology is not so good, and two, because my personal notes are not that coherent if you're not me.
Right.
If you don't have my prior knowledge. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, do you see any potential? Are there any technologies out there that you think could be sort of meaningfully combined with what we already have to create sort of big improvements? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say because you need a high hit rate. That's the problem. Even if you could find a low-level application of it, you need a really high hit rate in order for it to be... And by hit rate, I just mean success rate. I'm probably using the wrong term. But I just mean the percentage of the time when you... I don't know why I'm coughing, dude. The percentage of the time when you ask the machine for something, how often does it get it right? That's what I'm concerned with. And if it's really high, even if the application is pretty simplistic, that's valuable. But it's hard to find a domain where it's high and of any utility at all. But somewhere it's good are like reading PDFs, for example. Amazon has an API for this, a machine learning API that's very good and that kind of thing. So those applications I think are good, but for more complex stuff, probably not.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, I wish there was, I don't know. I'm just always looking out for technologies that I feel like they could be combined with what we already have to, I don't know, create some big changes or something. I feel like one of the things that's really missing is perhaps like social collaboration. I guess that's something that Rome's looking into. You're more of a Roman than I am. In fact, I've recently converted Roman.
Rome is the best.
Have you tried out the social collaboration side of it? Do you think it's valuable?
As of right now, it's not valuable because almost everybody sucks at it.
Okay.
I don't mean at the social collaboration aspect. I mean most everybody sucks at using Rome or Zettelkasten. It's almost as if no one understands what the point of it is. But, that's a story for another day, I guess. I'm just supremely disappointed in the type of stuff that people use Rome for. Unbelievable.
Well, when are you going to...
Hey, man, to each their own.
When are you going to be bringing out your $1,000 course so you can teach us how to use Rome?
See, that's the thing. I actively don't want to teach a course on anything that I like.
Okay.
Because then I suddenly create a conflict where if something better comes along, I'm stuck. I'm locked in accidentally because if a large portion of your income is from teaching a course about some piece of software that you like, and then a better piece of software comes along, you have to switch or you can't switch because you have to keep talking about this software. So it's I don't want to say here's a better way to use Rome. I would rather say here's a better way to use Notes. But even I don't know myself. But that's the reason why I'm not going around telling people that I know. But oh well. It is what it is, man. That kind of thing happens a lot where people who don't know very much about anything related to the thing they're talking about, they just go, oh, whatever, there's a market, so I'll sell it.
That's very true. All right, guys. Yeah, we haven't got very much time today, so we're going to keep it nugget dense.
No, let's talk a little bit more.
Okay. Oh, yeah. All right.
Let's talk.
Yeah, I'm down.
More. All right, cool. So yeah, I want to ask though, are you using a Zettelkasten system?
Me right now?
Yes.
Well, I've been using Obsidian, but the thing is, I don't think I use it like like a Zettelkasten. I think there's a big difference when you're like everything I write in that Zettelkasten is to be viewed by other people. So it all gets synced with Git, and that goes to my wiki so that other people can read it. And that, I think that vastly changes the sorts of, for example, the links that you make. Like I think I mentioned this last time, you know, I link between things that are very obvious to me already because I want other people to understand the argument. But if I was just using it just for myself, then there are some links that I probably wouldn't make because I wouldn't want to bring down the average link quality. I think we talked about this last time. You perhaps disagreed, but yeah, you can definitely see a difference when, for example, you read Andy Matuszak's notes. He puts them up not necessarily for other people to read, like they're mainly for him, I feel like. So when you read through them, it's like this probably requires some of these notes require Andy's prior knowledge in order to understand them because they haven't necessarily been written with the intent to have someone else read them and 100% understand the flow. And like there are other ways you can see that, for example, in the way that he doesn't have like an index or anything, so you can't tell what's been updated or, you know, what's been added recently. So yeah, I mean, I think you should certainly have a section. I think maybe you could do this with, probably if you just create a folder in Obsidian, right? That's going to make a subfolder in the vault. And then in your Git, you can just do git ignore of that folder, probably. That's true. And then that way you can write private stuff in there, and then, you know, it'll have a different quality to a different character, and that might be a really interesting thing to try. So I would definitely advise doing that because there's a lot of interesting use cases of this that wouldn't make sense to show other people because they're about your life or they're just sort of very random stuff. Like, for example, this was a very recent example of direct value that I got. Very simple search in Rome. So I've been writing a lot every single day in Rome for weeks, like way more than I ever imagined that I would. Thousands of words a day. Wow. Okay.
And I had noted that when I feel very sleep deprived, obviously I feel tired, but I also find it easier to get into a flow state. And so I noted that. And I just say, I wonder if there's a link between, you know, sleep deprivation and flow state, or the feelings of it when you're very, very tired and you're pushing past tiredness. There must be some sort of shutting off of certain parts of the brain. And again, I'm using that very loosely here because I'm not a neuroscientist, but just go with me on it. So I assume there must be something, or I thought there must be something similar. And so I linked that, and then I just go, I'll just search my sleep deprivation tag, because whenever I feel sleep deprived, I tag it with that just so I can find what happened to me on days where I was sleep deprived. And so I looked at that, and then I limited the references to the flow on that page, and I realized I had made that link another time, like way earlier on. So I made the same link accidentally twice, but it wasn't accidental. I had made the same association sort of roughly differently, and it just made me think, oh, now that I've thought of this twice, I wonder if there's something to it. You know what I mean? At least for me. It wasn't like a one-off experience. And so that's direct value, and I've gotten way more value than that. I really feel like the way that I've been using it is the way that it should be used, at least if you're trying to get the utility out of it that I'm trying to get out of it. So yeah, I've been getting a ton of value out of that kind of thing, but almost none of it is documenting stuff that I've learned and then, you know, hoping that I can get value out of it that way. Almost none of my notes are notes about other things. It's notes about my life, or notes about ideas I've had, or ways that I've solved problems. And so I'm not being hypocritical here by saying don't use Rome as a second brain and then I'm doing it myself. I am actually not taking notes on almost anything.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've always been a little bit sketched out, you know, writing about like really personal stuff, like stuff that happens in my life. I don't think I've ever done that in SuperMemo. I've never done that with Rome or Obsidian rather, or anything else. Just because I'd be like freaked out. Like I guess it's just because I've always wanted a at some point just to be able to put my entire SM collection up on the internet or something like that, and just have anyone look through it or anything like that. And I'd feel really sketched out doing that if I was putting, for example, other people's information about other people up there as well. I'd definitely feel a little bit more nervous about doing that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and that's why, there's a lot of coolness about whatever working with the garage door up or things like this, but also it's limiting, man. Like,
oh yeah.
You even Andy, there's a lot of private notes. Like, I know for a fact that his daily notes are not visible on the live version of his site, which is exactly how I think it should be. There should be some private stuff in everybody's life. Not everybody is entitled to know everything that you think or everything that you write. And if you're limiting yourself to only writing about stuff that's public, you're losing a lot of value. And I don't think that's worth it. There's a lot more value to be gained by this stuff. But anyway, I'm just I'm recently very interested in this kind of thing, and I'm very interested in using it in ways that feel natural to me and feel like I'm pulled towards them instead of out of some weird sense of duty or, oh, I have to take notes about this.
Yeah.
I never write anything because of that. I only write because I think, oh, that's really cool. I would like to save that and think more about it and this kind of thing. And if you're doing it out of some sense of duty, at least for me, it totally ruins the experience. It's not sustainable at all. And it's just very boring. And who wants to do boring stuff, man? I'm so sick of boring stuff. So many people, they talk boring, they say boring stuff, they do boring stuff.
Yeah.
Just don't be boring, please. And if I'm boring you, I apologize, but I can assure you, I'm trying not to be boring.
Please, just...
I'm trying not to.
Turn us off immediately if you find us boring. You don't have to sit through this.
Yes, go do something else with your life. If you find this boring, stop listening ASAP. Go do something interesting, please.
You should turn us off
Don't
immediately.
Don't be boring.
And flame us on Twitter as well. Say how bad we are. Terrible.
Make fun of me, dude. Make fun of me. Shame me for being boring. Come on. Don't
Bring it on.
on.
So when are we going to be seeing a fresh new wave of articles from you? Are we going to be seeing that imminently?
Oh, I've been writing, like, almost all of my recent tweets and stuff like that are results of stuff that I've written in Rome, and I go, oh, that would be good. And it's almost all writing that I've just done in Rome and just posted on Twitter. Obviously, I don't tweet very much, so that's not saying much. But like I say, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of words that I've written in Rome over the past few weeks. It might be 100 pages. I really don't know. Like, wow. It's a lot of stuff.
Wow.
So, yeah, and that's only over the last few weeks. Obviously, that's not enough time to determine the stickiness of the habit or whether it's a long-term thing that I'm going to do. But yeah, as of right now, I'm liking it a lot. And it doesn't have to be Rome, but I will say I like Rome better than Obsidian. And it's hard for me to articulate why that is. I like something about the blocks. I think that's very good. And whether people like the design of Rome or not, I think this is another case of over-exaggerating the badness of a user interface. I don't know why people do this. I don't understand it. I understand that Rome is not like a polished up app that looks like it was made for mass market consumption. I understand that. But what I don't understand is literally saying, oh, it looks terrible. It's awful. It's the worst user... Dude, come on. You know that's not true. You know that's not true. Come on. I don't know why people exaggerate this stuff. They do it with SuperMemo as well. Yeah. Is SuperMemo's user interface great? No. But it's not awful. I've seen some awful user interface.
Yeah.
You know what has an awful interface and an awful user experience? PayPal.
Oh,
PayPal has an awful user experience. Even fast actions in PayPal feel slow because of the way they've done the loading animations and the button focus states and the button active states and all this kind of thing. So there are certain stuff that feels awful, but I just don't think Rome is one of those. And obviously, everything I say on here, I'm not sticking by these opinions for my whole life, okay? And a lot of this stuff I'm just saying because whatever, I just feel like saying it in the moment, and maybe I won't stand by it even tomorrow. So who knows?
Okay. You can shame us for being boring, shame us for being hypocrites. Nothing we say matters.
Yeah, it's all nothing, man. It's all nothing. We're just living life here. Don't worry about it, all right? Just take a couple breaths, relax yourself, drink some water, stay hydrated.
Exactly.
Be nice to yourself, get some sleep, get some exercise. Don't worry about it. It's all good, all right?
There you go.
All right.
All right. Well, with that, should we call it? I mean, that's pretty good life advice.
Yeah. That was good.
That was very nice. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. See ya.